Hello and welcome to the Arsenal BiteSize Podcast. It's Monday evening after a traumatic day at Elland Road. 1-0 victory to the Arsenal against Leeds. I'm, of course, FPL Nima, and I'm joined by my co-host Clayton to review the match and talk about how much we've aged since yesterday.
I still feel like I've not relaxed yet. Like that game was so much stress, and yeah, you've just hit the nail on the head. How many years we've taken off our lives from that game is absolutely ridiculous. Like that was so stressful. That was ridiculous. Like I'm looking forward. This is going to be like therapy. I feel like obviously I'm so over the moon that we got 3 points and like we came away with a win, still top of the league, but like. I feel so drained emotionally from that. Yeah, unbelievable. Leeds were that was incredible, and yeah, to be honest, I'm looking forward to seeing. Obviously, Mike and Glenn are in the chat. I'm looking forward to hearing about their experience, like if they put a few messages in and stuff, because they were actually there in the away end. They sent us a nice picture of the two of them. I think it was before the game. It was either before or after. But yeah, that game was just too stressful. And I'm looking forward to going through rationally, kind of analyze things. That's the one positive of games like this, right? Especially when you win and you come away with 3 points. Like, I don't know about you, but I feel like, not being around the bush, we got lucky yesterday, but it's good that when you get lucky and you walk away with 3 points, there's a lot that I feel like you can learn and take forward. Because obviously if we'd lost yesterday, then it's all kind of doom and gloom, right? So yeah, I think there's a lot of things to take from it, learn, and hopefully implement going forward. But I also don't think it's the end of the world, the performance. Like, to play with the consistency that we have so far this season, like, I think you put it in the copy in this episode, right? To travel, I was going to say we traveled to Bodo on Thursday, taking it one step back, to play such an intense team in Liverpool, then travel to the Arctic, like you said, against Bodo Glimt, and like it's big changes. I think we touched on it in the preview episode, like the pitch, the conditions, the rhythm. Get my words out, of the team wasn't quite there because of how many changes. People like Ben White have played a lot of minutes. You go from Liverpool, Bodo Glimt, who are two like pressing teams, and then you go to another team who are pressing monsters. It's not going to be perfect, right? So huge 3 points. I'm really looking forward to dissecting it, but I still feel stressed. I don't know what it is. I feel exhausted.
I did
Yeah.
see a lot of angry Leeds fans on the timeline and non Leeds fans in the group chats talking about how lucky it was. No doubt about that. I don't think Leeds deserve to lose the game.
No.
I think it's a bit far-fetched to say they deserve to win, just considering as we analyze some stuff that happened. They are now still, based on what you said in the preview as well, that after yesterday's game and the tackles they made there, they have now made the most tackles in the league this season. So to go to a stadium where they were unbeaten in the league so far until we arrived, they
Well,
beat Chelsea 3-0 as well, I think. So,
didn't know that.
it's a tough place to go. Bodo, they won 14 games at home in the European competition before we went there. So to kind of not be playing at our best and to go away from a Thursday to Sunday to two places like that, as you said, the rhythm would have been disrupted. We would have flown back from Bodo, from the Arctic Circle, and we would have gone pretty much straight to Leeds. And sounds like there wasn't really even training. It was just a strategy conversation. Whereas obviously Leeds had nearly 10 days to prepare for this game, and you could see it in their preparation. I honestly think a lot of teams will go there and drop points this season. So to get that fixture out the way, I'm very glad. It's nice to have a home fixture next as well. We were supposed to be playing Man City at home midweek. So some people are saying, I wish we could play them now. Everyone's fit. I am very happy we're not playing them now.
Do you think I would have wanted it? Not for, like, I think we would have gone and beaten them and stuff. Just where we are right now, like point buffers and margins right now have such an impact on like the next consequential games and stuff. And I feel like if, like, big if we beat them, 7 points, that is fucking massive at this stage. And it just gives us that bit more buffer room. Whereas now, and then like it's also that game's done, right? Like dust your hands off, like that game's done, move on. Even if we lost, like, we're trying not to get carried away and think of this title challenge that everyone's pushing onto us, right? But if we just played that game, I feel like whether we won, lost, or drew in it, it's a big fixture out of the way. Whereas now, like, we don't know what circumstance we're going to be in when we go and play them, when we eventually do. And Sky, right? I think it's Sky or Amazon, whoever have the rights. They're going to do with what they did with the rearranged Tottenham game, right? They're going to try and build a narrative and a story. So same with like the race for top four last year. They put that rearranged game in April,
Right
May,
at the
whenever that
end, yeah.
was. And they're going to do the same thing. If we continue to play like this, they're going to try have that title narrative, right? So I personally would have liked to have got it out of the way, and also quite early in the season where overall we have played well. I think it would have been a good test for us to see where we're at. I just think later
Yeah.
on in the year, there's so many unknowns that we don't know right now. But
No,
that's
I
just
think
my
that's
opinion.
very fair, actually, now that you put it that way. I guess my thing is like, for Man City to lose at Liverpool, I would not want to be fighting an animal that's been put in a corner, like fight or flight mode.
Mate,
That's my
we're a
worry there.
wounded animal. We got dicked yesterday.
I think it's funny how it was the only game that we lost on XG
Yeah.
this whole season. So we've played well the rest of the season. The first game we didn't play well and got a victory. And instead of talking about our mental resilience and how it's the mark of champions and all the hard work that was put in, it was kind of talked about as like, it wasn't like, oh, look how smart they are, look how wise they were. It's all about, oh, Arsenal got so lucky. This isn't sustainable, this style of play. And I'm
I
like,
know. Like,
have you
don't get me
seen other?
wrong.
Yeah, like, have you seen other
Oh,
teams like, you know, like XG wise? Villa had like 2 XG versus
not a peep
Chelsea's
about
zero
Chelsea,
point
is it?
0.5 yesterday. No, nothing
It's
about Chelsea
ridiculous. And
being
like,
lucky.
I I don't want to always talk about them, but like Tottenham, I think that they have done well this season, right? And like I think and a lot of the listeners will know, I personally do not like their style of play. I think there's periods of games where they do really well, like the second half against Everton, they blew them away. But there are games where Spurs have been scrappy, like they've got over the line with a penalty, a 1-0 and stuff like that, and there's not a peep. And like I'm not saying it's remotely close to how we played yesterday, but it is funny. And like I will be the first to hold my hands up. Like I think we got lucky yesterday. I think
Yeah,
it'll be good to go through the decisions, because I personally don't think that pen should have been a pen anyway, based on the offside. Not like I'm not doubting Saliba handballed it, but we'll go on to that later on. But yeah, I think to come out of there and say we got 3 points, I think was kind of undeserved. But the big but is these narratives. If it was any other team, and like they've been playing the pretty football we have so far, and now we've shown that mental resilience, as you talk about, that grit, like we have walked away with 3 points, which I would put big money on in previous seasons. If that kind of game state, the flow of that game had gone the way it did yesterday, we were not walking away with a 1-0 win. I'd say we were going to be walking away with a 2-3, 4-0 loss, to be honest. So
yeah. I
I
think
think
that game, if you replay it over in prior seasons, we would 100% be losing that
yeah.
game. We wouldn't have been able to handle what we did. I think we saw, obviously, like, I looked at the field tilt, and in the second half, it's basically just for them. At least in the first half, we like competed, but that second half, my God, they bombarded us. It
I
was
know.
honestly incredible. I think we'll talk about the incidents, but before we do that, let's have a quick look at the lineup. So
Yep.
we got this 11 out of 11 this time for the podcast listeners.
Before before
Yep.
we
So
go into that, do you want to shout out the guys in the chat? And I know you usually do that.
yeah. Let's go into that first before we get right into all the normal stuff. So Mike Halpin, good to see you. Evening. We've got Glenn Harriet here as well. Good to see you, mate. Christopher Tellez is tuned in. William Frick, all the regulars here supporting. Good to see you guys, and
Nice one. Cheers,
glad to
guys.
hear some of you guys met up as well. Up at the away game, so must have been great fun. Sounds like you all got home after midnight, so I can imagine you were kind of recovering from the trauma and aging of that experience of watching that game live. It was, I can't even imagine what it would have been like waiting
All right.
37 minutes for the game to start.
So if I had to hazard a guess, like I think yesterday would have been even more stressful. But I was at the Wolves away game last year. You remember when Martinelli got that stupid double yellow that, like, we've never seen. And then he got sent off, and then like we were just backs against the wall, and that relief at full time. I'm imagining like Glenn and Mike in that away end yesterday, just that deep breath that when the final whistle goes, and that just like proper excitement and jubilation that you've actually done the job. Yeah, I bet it was a stressful watch being there, but I bet that sense of relief at the end, just nothing comes close to it.
I totally agree. So in terms of the lineup, we obviously got 11 out of 11 this time, so it's good to
Yeah,
see
we're
that
doing all right.
Tomiyasu at left back did seem to be the preferred option.
Yeah,
I'm sure in the preview for Southampton away, we'll talk more about what we think is going to happen there, because I could see Tierney starting against PSV at home, which then again means, like, does that mean Tomiyasu starts
I
again?
know.
It's starting to look like that, but depends where Zinchenko is, I suppose, in his recovery. I don't think many of the team covered themselves in glory. I
No.
would say that Saliba and Jesus, maybe they had like one of their poorer games for us, especially Saliba. They've given him a 7.5 here because he still made quite
That's
a lot of
you
blocks.
see what
But
I mean when I talk about
yeah,
trusting these apps with ratings, right? Like the only reason we use these are just it's the slickest like visual and it's quite easy
yeah.
to share amongst Nima and myself when we're doing the slides. But Saliba was not a 7.5.
No, I think White played better than him, and he's a 6.8 here. So
I thought
that,
White struggled yesterday. I thought the only one in the back line, like obviously Ramsdale, by the way, like
yeah,
phenomenal.
definitely man of the match for me. Like he kept us in the game single handedly
Yeah,
at times.
there are a few incidents, and there's one that I can't remember like the specific players, but it was a corner into the box, and then there was a bit of a ricochet and stuff, and then someone shot, and he just kind of like parried it, but Rodrigo was literally there ready to pounce on the rebound. And one thing you see, like Lloris did it against us, like they just don't, the keepers don't really parry it out. Ramsdale did that so well, and I've not really seen that mentioned anywhere. That is such an underrated thing in that amount of chaos to be able to just sweep it out. And yeah, we won that game because of Ramsdale and Gabriel. Gabriel, like, I want to talk about the incident because I got my opinions on that, but just analyzing his performance, I thought he was absolutely brilliant. Like the block, that was proper backs against the walls, backs against the wall defending, and like his interceptions, his block. I think I don't know if you've got it to hand, but you shared like a stat the other in the chat the other day. But like his interceptions, his blocks, yeah, it was good. I think Tommy, I think so. My logic, I think we both agreed on this. The logic for him starting the game was obviously against a team that I highlighted in the preview, Leeds, and their like the way they regained the ball. I felt like that was completely overlooked in any Arsenal circles. I didn't see that being mentioned anywhere, and that's why I thought the likes of Tomiyasu, where Zinchenko isn't available, stylistically he's the closest in terms of being that technically secure to keep the ball. But he was off it, weren't he? Like
Yeah, there
he
was definitely
really
a
was off it.
moment where I think I was listening to Arseblog, and they were saying, because he was playing left back. I know he's ambipedal, like 2-footed as they come, but it's not his like ideal position. And one of the incidents, he didn't do a great job dealing with it. And they were saying perhaps because if he'd been at right back and that had come in, he would have dealt with it better. But because it was an unusual position for him to be in, they then got through on goal.
Was
So I
it the
remember there was a
one
few
where
moments.
like he inverted a little bit and Ramsdale chipped it into him? And there were options there for him to pass it, but he kind of chested it, and then he took too long, and then
And then he didn't
Leeds
know
went off
how
and
to,
took
yeah,
it. And
exactly. He didn't know
yeah,
where to release it. Yeah. So I definitely think there was partly that. I'd say really, obviously, the likes of White and Odegaard, you could tell from the early subs that they were obviously knackered. They'd started on Thursday as well. There was a lot of minutes in these players' legs.
yeah. I
Saka's
thought,
finish, just on that, by the way,
oh,
like I've rewatched it a lot more today, and I can't
incredible.
think of many times someone scores from such an acute angle. Like it's
No,
actually insane quality.
Madison did it last season, and like it's really similar. And he did I can't remember who it was against, but he did an interview about it, and he was talking about how, with his old man, like growing up, when he was talking about when you're in an angle like that. And Madison's was a bit closer to goal, to be fair, but all you can do is hit the roof. And Saka, like, I was watching the game with my mate, and I was like, did he mean that? Like, did you think he meant to cross? And then you see the replays, like, he absolutely bloody meant that. And like, again, there's not many angles he could have scored from there. Like, that is, I don't know what the XG of that chance was, but probability wise, I imagine that goes in like 1 in 7, 1 in 8. Like, what a fucking finish that was on his weak foot as well.
It's actually crazy. So like his brilliance there and his consistency over this period since he's kind of, I guess, arguably got back into form. You know, we know for the first few games we were relying a bit on the left wing, but he's now got 4 goals and 4 assists in his last 7 games. So
That's the
he's
thing.
back at his best.
Yeah, we said like he wasn't out of form. He just wasn't at his like electric self at the start of the season, which was fine. Like the way we were playing, and yeah, like I think it was so important going into the season to kind of remove the reliance on him. So yeah, there were no dramas. Just one thing I wanted to touch on. You mentioned Odegaard, and obviously he came off because of like he was tired and stuff. First half, I thought he was really influential. Like we'll go on to the narrative of the performance later when we look at like the threat, the XG and stuff. But I just feel like the first half, I thought it was a very even contest. Personally, I really did, and I thought we didn't play our sustained football like we know we can, and obviously there were reasons for that. Players have off games, right? Sometimes that you can't psychoanalyze why. Like, who knows? Like, do we know what impact the VAR thing at the start had? Like, where the game was interrupted? Like, I know obviously it affected Leeds as well, but when you're preparing for a game, these players, but they plan and prepare everything to a T. Like the time they eat, the amount of carbs, protein, fats they eat, how like that's allocated out, like the times that they go out to train, all of that is scientifically done to a T now. Like we don't know how that affected things, and I just feel like, yeah, there's two reasons why we really struggled. Players had off days. That's normal. That happens. You can't account for every eventuality when you're trying to forecast and predict. And B, we were put under the cosh by a very intense team. Like they suffocated us. And we've got the ability to play out against pressing teams. We've seen us do it, but to do that, you have to be so technically and tactically astute. There's no margin for error against teams like that. And unfortunately, it was a combination of those factors. But I just wanted to highlight Odegaard. I thought in the first half, he did really well. And any bits of play that looked good, I thought he was at the heart of. And like there was a couple nice moves. Like I feel like we were robbed of a potential really nice goal. Do you remember there was that? Forgot who won the ball. Saka passed it back to, I want to say, White, and then we did our little triangles, moved it around. Xhaka picked up the ball. Jesus then went on the dribble. He got fouled and he tried to stab it to Martinelli on the left, but the ref pulled up for a free kick, which was like 35 yards out.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And then Jesus was like, "Why didn't you play, advantage like Martinelli
Yeah,
got the ball in
Martinelli
the
was
box?"
1-on-1 then. Yeah,
Yeah, that was a bit annoying. What can you do, right? In terms of Odegaard, I think Saka said it himself. He was kind of like, I knew that once Odegaard had the ball, like I just had to get into position. I knew he'd find me. So it's like
the
that
weight
that
of
assist,
pass.
yeah, it's so sublime.
It's the
'Cause
same as like the Martinelli one, right? Like that is inch perfect to hit it into their stride. Like at the pace that they're running at, it is incredible.
there was a moment actually, Odegaard, where he took a shot. It was quite a weak shot, I thought, straight on target. The goalkeeper straight down the middle. I do think he could have hit that a bit harder. I sometimes wonder if he's got a bit of Messi about him in that when he has the ball, he kind of is thinking about the pass first.
Yeah.
So then when he does
I can't remember
inevitably
what the
shoot,
shot was, to be fair.
yeah, it was a very feeble, weak shot. But I found that when he seems to shoot best is like when we saw him nick the ball off Jesus and just completely
Just
plaster
like
it into the net.
instinctively, yeah.
Yeah, like no time to think, just smash it towards goal. Whereas in that kind of incident, he had a bit of time on the ball and like he was like, okay, I'm going to shoot now. I can't find a passing option. And then it's just like a really weak shot straight down the middle of the goalkeeper. So I do think he himself is in great form as well. Talking of like Saka's 4 goals, 4 assists, I think he's on like maybe 2 goals, 3 assists in kind of 5 games. So he's also doing perfectly fine as it is.
And he was just one of many that struggled in the second half. Like no one in the second half did well, right? Like
no, they
and
did
I
not.
think that's what the subs came at a very good time, I think, because I was screaming for a sub, but I was also saying to my mate, like, I don't know what we do here to change it. I was even suggesting like Nketiah on for Jesus earlier because I thought Jesus was really, really struggling yesterday. I think, yeah, like whether it was a knock-on impact of the knock but like again, it's okay to have off days, right? Like you don't need to over dramatize it. I just felt like we really needed to change something, and I was happy to see Vieira come on because I feel like we really needed someone to just technically control the ball, slow it down. And this is, again, I'm not going to isolate anyone from this because the whole team, especially in the second half, didn't do that what we know they're capable of. But that's where, do you remember in the summer we were talking about like the midfield as a group, and like forget individual like left eights, right eights, sixes, just as a group? Do you remember what I said? Like I felt like we were one short of just having a different option to Xhaka, where it's someone that could come in and control the game. That is the game state yesterday I was talking about. Where, like, and I know you can't squad build and plan for every eventuality. And to be fair, I'm not talking about Xhaka in this sense. It was more Party. I feel like we needed more of a Rodri than a Party yesterday in that sense, where the ball comes in, you just need to kill it. Like how Party played against Brentford, we needed that yesterday, because when you're being suffocated like that, you don't need to go and aggressively break the lines all the time. You just need to knock it to the right back, play the boring crab passes. What El Neni loves doing. We actually needed that for
we needed
spells
him,
to
but he
just take the
wasn't
sting out.
available. My God,
Yeah,
Holding
I never
came on,
thought.
which we've not seen much this season for the famous
Yeah.
back three to deal with them. I did think so. Just before we talk about the data, I just want to add on Gabriel. So I did pull up those stats. So he had 100% aerial duels won. He had 90% pass accuracy from 80 touches. He contested 9 duels, won 8 of them, 4 clearances, 4 blocks, 3 tackles, 3 interceptions, and 1 shot. So there was the moment of madness and petulance where he kicked out. That is for sure. That's not something you should be doing. And I saw Xhaka having a word with him. I'm glad he did, and I think the rest of the
I'm
team
loving Xhaka's like responsibility at the moment. Just I think you brought it to my attention a few weeks ago, like the huddles. He's kind of leading that, and even you just see him the way he was communicating with the ref. And I really liked what Rob Holding did. You know, as soon as the incident happened and Gabriel and Bamford were squaring up, Holding just shoved him away, and then obviously he can speak English to Bamford as well. But yeah, just the roles leadership wise in this team, like they're quietly there. And I like Xhaka for how he's performing in that leadership role as well.
Definitely. I think he is like the people's captain in terms of who the squad look to as captain, and Odegaard he's like the captain of the new young generation of Arsenal going forwards. And he kind of, I'd say he's more of a captain by like how he performs and the quality of level he normally plays at, whereas Xhaka's maybe the more vocal captain, you would say. But it's amazing to have such players. I think Christopher Tellez says it here that, you know, his footballing IQ for Odegaard for someone his age is just insane.
It's mental.
It's actually mental. And yeah, like Klopp said it, right? He said
he wanted
since
him when
he
was
15. Yeah, he was like when he was 15, 16, you know, everyone talked about like the footballer he would become, and he has now become that footballer. Like he was like, he's become the world-class player that we think he can become. Like he's just incredible. There isn't like a bad Odegaard out there. There isn't like a copy of him out there that I can think of. He's very unique in his skill set. So very glad we got him, and we got him at a bargain price. Imagine we'd got a Buendia. Like, my God. So thank God for that.
If Arsenal fans manage the team, right? Before we go on to the data, shall we touch on the rest of the subs and go over the incidents?
Definitely the incidents. So for me, I guess the first thing I want to talk about is
before we go into incidents, should we just cover off the final subs and stuff? Because the one thing I noticed was I thought Ben White was really struggling. Like, I thought he went AWOL. And again, some of the reasons you mentioned, he's played a lot of minutes this season, and especially in the last 7, 8, 9 days. I just thought he was really missing. And I thought that was a very good sub from Arteta. He brought on Tierney, shifted Tomiyasu to right back. He looked a bit more comfortable. Tierney, you know what you're getting. And I thought that was a really good sub at an important time. And then, like you said, he obviously brought on Holding as well. And then Nketiah, like, you just know what you're getting with him. He's got so much more to his game. And I wouldn't have been mad if Jesus went off earlier and Nketiah came on personally. But again, I just thought with how the game state was going, and like, yeah, we know we got lucky, like things have to fall your way and stuff. But I thought the subs that he did to try and influence the game, I thought were really, really good. And I also thought it was quite telling of where he sees Lokonga right now in his journey, because yeah, that is a game where I think you needed to change something in the middle, but he didn't really know who he could trust.
It was Vieira who came on, right? So I do think I saw some interesting stuff from Vieira. He gave an interview and he basically said, like, look, I know that this is the most physically demanding league in the world. I'm hitting the gym 3 times a week. I'm looking to bulk up. I'm looking to get strong. And I'm going to come
it?
good.
What a slacker. He should be in 5 days.
I guess the other days he's training football, right?
Yeah, no, I'm joking.
I know. But it was nice to see that, because that was a criticism people made of him in the summer, that like he's got a slight frame. I think he's 5'7".
Yeah,
he's technically gifted. Anyone can tell you that. But we were always worried that there's a precedence this season to let play go on more. Like, there's more leniency. Amount. Yeah, like we saw it in the City game against Liverpool. We saw it against us and United. I'll talk about VAR when we get to the incidents, because there's a VAR review from Dale Johnson at ESPN that I read every week.
Okay.
And in it, he talks about like, did the VAR make the right decision or not about every controversial incident that
Has he
weekend.
covered Arsenal's yet?
He has, and he also covered the City disallowed goal for Haaland pulling Fabinho. And he basically said that that was the same as our disallowed goal against United, where Odegaard did the soft foul in the build-up.
So what was he saying? That our goal should have counted?
So he said that an independent panel of referees have reviewed it, and I'll tell you exactly what they said. It's what we thought at the time. He basically said, if referees are officiating games to a higher threshold, allowing the game to flow more and not giving so-called soft free kicks, then the VAR should be trying to officiate that way too. He says, this is about the City game in Liverpool. He goes, referee Anthony Taylor saw the incident and, as he had done in the rest of the game, decided there wasn't enough in the challenge to warrant a free kick. He is seen here gesturing to Fabinho to get up. Then the VAR Darren England is effectively re-refereeing the game by intervening and making a judgment on an individual incident to a different standard. Once Taylor is sent to the monitor and shown the pull on the shirt, he has little option than to go with the advice of the VAR. Perhaps Taylor didn't see the tug, but the fact remains that disallowing the goal for this went against the way the game was being officiated. The independent panel, which assesses all major decisions, told Arsenal Football Club that the VAR shouldn't have become involved in the Odegaard Eriksson incident, and this feels like it's on those exact same lines. However, there's no way the goal could stand, regardless of the merits of the Fabinho Haaland incident.
So that's so interesting, because do you remember at the time, my opinion, which was unpopular, was letter of the law, it's a foul. Like, I thought it was absolutely soft, but at the time, I think it was like game week 5 or 6, I didn't quite have that sample to know like the refereeing this season. Like, obviously it's easy to see now, but like at the time I didn't realize that everything is just being let go and stuff. And now I look back at that and I'm like, okay, if you're letting things go and you're trying to play a more fluid game, how can you call up on that? But at the time I thought letter of the law, it's a foul, but it was soft. And that's
but
why
when the referees, officiating the game in a certain way, how can it be re-officiated under different standards just because it led to a goal?
Exactly. So that's
you can't just let things go, right? To be fair, this is slightly different because it says that even if he'd not agreed with the shirt pull, when then they would have then showed him the next clip, which was the ball being in the goalkeeper's hands under control and it being kicked out of his hands, and they said that would have probably been disallowed regardless. Right. But on the shirt pull side of things, they likened it to Odegaard's incident. They said that actually the independent panel told Arsenal it should never, VAR shouldn't have even got intervened.
How different that game would have gone, right? Because we scored it early, right? Was it like the first 10 minutes or something?
So I'm not just saying that because I'm an Arsenal fan. I'm saying that because I guess what it's getting me down to, in short, this article, Dale Johnson, ESPN, I recommend you all to check out each week. The reason is that on a weekly basis, it just highlights the fuck-ups that are happening and the inconsistency to match and in what's supposed to be the best league in the world with the most revenue. So it's very jarring, the inconsistency. So then going on to the VAR incidents at Wild Game, I'll tell you what he says specifically about this.
Before you say that, I think
you give me your thoughts. Yeah, give your opinion, because I had my own opinion. My opinion was,
okay, go on, say
when
yours.
I was watching the first penalty they got, like I was literally just in real time watching, and I saw the ball get passed, and I was like, that guy's offside. Like, he's literally passed it to someone offside. Now, Saliba, no doubt that was a handball. That would be a penalty. But it was offside before in the build-up. So I couldn't comprehend it. Then they went to VAR. I thought, okay, VAR is going to spot this. Showed VAR. Not one commentator mentioned it was offside. And I'm watching the replay.
It's because of the phases of play.
So that's what this guy says. He says that they'd said that they're not going to go back too many phases. But then he said it's vague, the interpretation of what counts as the same phase. And he said on a different day, a different VAR would have disallowed it and given offside. So he said, that's shocking. So he's basically saying on one day, that ref's looking at it and thinking, okay, Arsenal have had time to resettle the back line. The ball's gone out and then it's come back in. It's a different phase of play. We can't go that far back with VAR. Because then on a different day, a different VAR would look at that and say, no, that's the same phase of play. I'm going to disallow it. Now, my argument is it should never have gone to VAR because the linesman is 1 meter in line with the
He's standing in line. Yeah.
And that's what I can't believe. He's literally in line with him. He doesn't call offside. He doesn't see him. And then the same linesman recommends to the referee to give a red card and a penalty for Bamford fouling Gabriel. It's the same linesman
Right,
on the same side of the pitch. The same guy who doesn't raise his flag. Just the inconsistency and incompetence. I honestly don't know what to
No,
say.
I agree. So my thing was the exact same. And do you remember, again, there was another episode I said I was describing that Man City game at home last year. And my thing was I didn't disagree with any of the big decisions apart from the Odegaard penalty one. But my thing is more with the way refereeing is going, they let so many little things go that completely affects the flow of a game. And where I sit at the Emirates, you sat in my seat, you can see it. You're on the 18-yard line, right? You can bloody see so many offsides, and the linesmen, they they let so many go. It's ridiculous, and people won't focus on this because not everything leads to a direct goal. But these things go unnoticed so much, and it influences the next few minutes of how the game is controlled and stuff. And that is a bloody prime example. That Lino, he could not have placed himself better to have a better view if he tried. Like,
He was literally 2 meters, 1 meter
and
in
that's where,
line with the player, and there's no other player in the line
and
from Arsenal.
thank God we played the game with VAR. I never thought I'd say that, but I saw some people on Twitter saying, play it without VAR, go old school. I was like, no,
Oh, they
we
would
will
have got
get
that
fucked
second
over.
pen and the red card at the
They
end
would have
if there
got
was no
both.
VAR.
And like, that's the thing. Like, I understand that the phases of play application is subjective. I get that. And I think when I'm assessing how they're reviewing VAR, I kind of accept that. My problem, same as what you just said, it should have never bloody got to VAR because that Lino should have had his flag raised and that should have been it. Saliba handballed it, no doubt, not denying
Yeah,
that. But
no doubt.
the
Like that was
phase of play
100% a
should
handball.
never have bloody got that far. And that's why, like, fuck Bamford, man. Like, yeah, he put it wide, and like that's the kind of luck that we need when we were screwed over there. I'm not
I still
like
can't
people
believe
can come
that
at
they
me for
let
that, but we got
someone.
screwed by
Yeah,
that.
but I still can't believe that they let someone take a penalty who's like not been playing football for a year. And
Yeah.
the journalists were talking, so the commentators were talking. They were like, he's waiting for his 100th goal. He's been waiting for this 100th goal
They were
forever.
licking their lips.
They were like, he's been waiting
Bastards.
so long for the 100th goal. He's been waiting so long. And I think the team did really well because they delayed the penalty. They were all in the box. They were crowding, trying to, delay the taking as long as they could to get in his head. And I do actually think I give a lot of credit to Ramsdale for that. Because although it was
big
not a
time.
penalty save, I think if you rewatch it, you'll
He
see that
covered
as
his post.
Bamford's about to kick it, he sees that Ramsdale's going the right way. And it makes him think, shit, I'm going to have to get this inch perfect right in the corner. Yeah, so if you watch it carefully again, you'll notice Bamford mid-shot has to adjust the shot because he realizes Ramsdale's going to get to it otherwise.
Really? I hadn't
and then he
noticed
ends up missing. Yeah, so I give a lot of credit to Ramsdale for doing that as well.
Yeah,
I think that was
completely
missed by a lot of people. Like it wasn't mentioned in the commentary. But just in terms of VAR, so that's not
Second
the only
incident.
controversy. Yeah, so that's
Well,
not
so
the only one.
before we get on to the big one, do you think the foul on Gabriel where Bamford scored? Do you agree with that? It was a foul.
So again, that one I thought was very soft. If that was Gabriel Jesus scoring and it was disallowed, I'd be a bit pissed. I'm not gonna lie.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
I thought it was a foul, like no questions.
it was a foul. Like obviously he was going for the jump. He pushed him over, but
I just think if you elbow someone in the back, like because it wasn't a shoulder and like it
that's
wasn't
true. It
a
was an
hand,
elbow.
like
Yeah,
it what like whether it was a aggressive elbow, like I don't think it was aggressive, but you are using something against the rules to gain an advantage. And like, okay, I can see the point of like, yeah, it's soft. Like you're a centre back, you're meant to be this big hard man. But like, for me, that's a foul. Like anywhere on the pitch, I would expect that to be given a foul. And if that was against Arsenal, let's see if it happens and if I'm consistent. But I'd like to think I'd be able to understand why that wasn't given. Why that was given as a foul.
we've seen all kinds of things, man. I've seen Callum Chambers' goal get taken off because he apparently fouled the three players who fouled him in the box that should have been a penalty, but his goal got ruled out instead, despite him scoring being fouled. So like you say, it's always
so what
very
do you say?
inconsistent.
Do you think so? Yeah, sorry, I interrupted you. So you thought it was soft, but
I thought it was a bit soft. I thought if that was me, I would be annoyed if a Jesus goal got ruled out for a similar incident, I guess is where I'm coming from. I'm just having a look at what this guy thought, Dale Johnson. So
who is he, by the way? Is he like a ref or something?
So no, he's an ESPN writer, and every week he has one specific article he releases where he looks at every single VAR decision, VAR review, the overturns, and talks about them. And just kind of says, does he think the decision, like, was it right or was it not? So so for the one with the Saliba handball. He does say that there was an offside in the build-up, but you know, he says the Premier League did make it clear at the start of the season that VAR wouldn't go too far back in the play to penalise an offence. But then he kind of says, you know, a different VAR might have to rule that out, or if the linesman had done it.
Yeah, and that's all well and good, but linesmen just can't stop doing their job because they think VAR will get like. You have. I think they should be penalised, man. I really like. I think there should be
there's no consequences for them, right? There's no promotion system.
There should be like a
relegation.
points table of referees where each decision they're like allocated points or like they're, like they just can't keep doing this because linesmen right now. I would love to see the stats on this, but they are. I am telling you, they are not flagging with. When there's any element of doubt in them, whether it's 5 or 10%, they're not flagging because they just think, oh, VAR will sort that out. But with phases of play, teams are going to get fucked over so many times, and like it's just getting absolutely ridiculous. And this is the thing, like people talk about conspiracy theories and stuff. It's nothing against our club specifically, but it happens in games all the time. Like these linos are letting so many blatant offsides go where they've got the tiniest percentage of doubt, and it's like, that is not how you referee and linesman a game. Like you don't.
Well, this is what I was saying about the Liverpool game, right? So I've looked at it a bit more, and I've read this guy since then. I've read what he said, and there's no doubt Núñez was offside for Liverpool's goal when Gabriel fucks up the clearance.
I can't remember. Oh, against us. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, against us. And you know, they're saying he wasn't intervening with play, but Gabriel doesn't go for it to clear it in that way in that panic moment. If Núñez wasn't in, he doesn't know Núñez is offside, so so by default, Núñez being in offside position has made him have to do something that he wouldn't do if Núñez is out of play. But that got allowed again as well, and they said that it was because they didn't deem him to be interfering with play. But then, you know, I would say he was. So it's all a bit subjective, which is kind of annoying. You bring in technology, it's not an objective law book, right? It's also the referee's own perception, which is painful. So what he says about the Bamford foul, just to finish on that, he says...
give your opinion before the
Well, I said I thought it was soft, yeah. So that was
okay. Yeah.
So I mean that one that we're talking about. So he says Leeds thought they equalised. Chris Kavanagh ruled out the goal for a push on Gabriel. Now he says it seems a soft decision with the referee disallowing the goal because Bamford pushed Gabriel as the Arsenal man was about to head the ball on the edge of the 6-yard box. Kavanagh didn't blow his whistle until after the ball had crossed the line, so the VAR could have advised the goal should be allowed. However, so basically because he didn't blow it till after, they were allowed to intervene. But because Kavanagh has identified a push that was clearly present, there is no chance a VAR would ever go against such a decision made on the field of play. So because the ref made the decision, so that's what I mean by soft. Had the ref made the decision the other way, that it was a goal, VAR also wouldn't have intervened because they say, well, he saw the push, not going to overrule the on-field decision. So it's all based on like, that's what I mean by soft. So I feel like we were lucky in the sense that, thank God, he saw the push every ref and ruled it out.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
That's what I mean, because if he'd not ruled it out, VAR would have said otherwise. But and you want to talk about the last one, right? The final incident, and we'll go to the stats. So this was the second penalty and obviously the foul by Bamford.
What do you think?
So when I watched it, I thought it was a foul on Bamford. The first 3-4 times I watched the replay while they were showing it, I just kind of thought that was how Gabriel naturally fell. So a foul from Bamford on Gabriel. Oh, right. I thought that was just how Gabriel naturally fell. I didn't really see the kick out, but on hindsight, there is the kick out. Yeah, there is a petulant kick out.
Yeah, I when I saw it happening, I thought, because there was like 2-3 seconds in between, right? So first of all, I was like, well, Bamford's fouled Gabriel there. And I was thinking, yeah, thank God. Like, that's it. In that split second.
Yeah, I thought it was over
like,
at first.
Game's wrapped up. We're going to get a goal kick. Ramsey would just boot it up. And then 2 seconds later, I saw it. I don't know how I saw it, but I was like, I said to my mate, he's just kicked at him there. And like, yeah, obviously you start to panic. So again, red card, like it is. But I agree. Like, Bamford fouled Gabriel. So again, it's a sequence of events, right? Gabriel does not kick out if he wasn't fouled.
He kicks out because he thinks, well, this guy's gonna get penalized for fouling me. So like, surely I'm not the one to get in trouble. I think that's why Xhaka spoke to him, because he's like, dude, like I get you felt fouled and you thought like obviously the cameras will know that, but you can't do this because that's the thing. Even though the penalty got removed, they could have still stood by that red card for how he behaved.
Yeah,
He is fucking fortunate that they made
yeah.
it a yellow. Honestly, I thought at first that he was giving the yellow to Bamford. I didn't
I
realize
know.
he was I didn't realize he was downgraded to red from Gabriel
Yeah,
to a
so
yellow.
I'm not really sure what the rules are on that then. Like considering that it was a foul on Bamford, but what Gabriel did
So
was as a result. But yeah, God
yeah,
knows. But like,
so in a normal scenario, they wouldn't penalize him for it, but because it's like against the spirit of the competition, it's like
sure,
unsportsmanlike behavior. They
okay,
can still choose to keep the red, downgrade to yellow, or remove the card altogether. And I think
yeah,
from what he saw in the replays, like Gabriel definitely acted unsportsmanlike, but he must have then watched what I watched because it looked like Bamford got shot by a fucking sniper. Like the
yeah.
way my guy went down, like that acting school at Eton or wherever he studied must have been
He's a
really
little
good.
posh boy, isn't he? So
Yeah, I would
yeah,
know going to those kind of public schools myself, but he's the exact type, speaks French, like very good upbringing. Honestly, the way he went down, like I'm not even sure I see contact from Gabriel's leg.
no,
At
it's
most, I
just to
see his
get
leg like
someone.
brushing past his arm or something. And the way he falls, the theatrics, my lord.
So to be fair to Bamford, like I think yeah, completely agree. Like he obviously did that to get the attention, and then like he was kind of up and kind of face to face. But I think most people that get kicked out like that react that way in this game and
It's
modern
like when you
age,
get the coming
unfortunately.
together of their heads and then they fall over, like as if they just got head
Yeah,
butted and their nose got bust.
exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, one thing I just want to say on that is like, so yeah, completely agree. Like it was a foul on Gabriel, but whether you're fouled, you cannot react like that. You can't give the referees a decision to make. And this is, I've seen a lot of like, it's not revisionism, but people saying like, I don't know how to word it. Basically, people overly defending Gabriel. It's like the guy has made mistakes. It's okay to acknowledge that. And this is the bit of his game which it will go. I'm hoping it will go with age because he's still very young and like he's got a lot of strengths. But this little, it's like he's got like a little something like a devil on his shoulder. Like he sees red so quickly, and you can't be doing this because that. Unfortunately, we have conceded more goals this season than we should have because of him. Like being brutally honest about it. Like obviously yesterday he bloody saved us, like fantastic defending, but I just think we should not ignore it. And fans are so quick to say you can't criticize your players. Do you think Arteta is just going to let that go? Arteta's
Yeah,
going to be
the fact
giving
that
him a grilling him.
the fact that Xhaka spoke to him, that's going to be a mini dressing down of what Arteta's going to give him. Like
Yeah, like I
Arteta's
just
going to tell him, "I'm not impressed. Like you
and
can't
like
do this."
he needs to sort his composure out. And like I think you know what we said about Jesus and not taking too much away from his game ahead of like potentially getting a fifth yellow. Like Gabriel's strengths are his front-footed defending, like his aggressive nature. And I mean aggressive in terms of how he attacks the ball, not like his temper. But you do need to just be mentally a bit smarter, I think. And like something like that, that is just that's a schoolboy error, like which, yep, like he should not have been sent off, but on another day, how people interpret it is one thing, and you just don't ever give these bloody referees a decision to make. That's it.
Yeah, don't give them a decision to make. So let's go to the stats then, because we've skirted around it for long enough. Because I guess neither of us really want to see it. Because as I said, it's our first performance where we lost on XG. So the cumulative XG stats from Markar Stats on Twitter are 2.36 for Leeds versus 0.58 for us. Stats Bomb is 2.2 for Leeds versus 0.5 for us. So the X threat is similar, 1.03, 1.03. We did have more possession, 53%, just about. Field tilt is 68% of them in our final third versus only 31% of us in their
Not
final third.
seen anything like it this season.
No, and the defensive line height 42-40. So I think even though this shows we had a reserve defensive line height, I do think that's just because of the way they bombarded us in the second half. In the first half, what I felt was that we were still trying to play a high line, and they knew that if they were direct on the wings, they could get past it, and they kept doing it again and again and again. Sinistera, Aronson, Harrison, they were all popping up. I think as the match went on and we realized the game state had changed and we had to hold on to this lead and it's coming to the end,
you naturally
our defensive line kept dropping further back, especially when we went to a back three. But originally, though, I do think we were probably slightly higher up defensive line height-wise. When you look at Leeds, it's quite similar to half-time, really. I think we were okay in the game. We did try to have some possession there in the first half.
I thought it was an even first half. I really did. And interestingly, like I always prefer to look at threat rather than XG because I feel like I've said about why. Obviously, XG is how you evaluate who had the better chances. But for like the flow of a game, I like to look at the threat. And I really disagree with that graph. Like obviously, statistically, it's obviously correct, but I did not feel like over the what's that going up till like the 75th minute. I did not feel like we were sort of dominating or constantly in areas to threaten Leeds.
I think it's more because we just maintained the XG from like the first half. So if you look at from half up to half time, that's basically all our XG of the game.
I guess so, but like theirs was even, right? So I just
theirs starts to pick up, right?
Yeah, like that first half, I thought it was very even. Like we had moments where we played the football we know we can play, but again, I was just screaming out to sustain it. Like there were too many times we were being a bit too confident, and it's like we needed to just humble ourselves a little bit and like, okay, take 2-3 minutes to just take the sting out of this, knock it around.
We had like no control. Like I felt like
none
just when
at
I was
all.
watching, there was no controlled possession. Like I'd hate to think how many 10+ passing sequences or 15+ passing sequences we had. Might be none. Like
and
it was so low.
That's what I said at the start, right? And like even going a step back, what I said in the preview about how fast and aggressive Leeds are to regain the ball and then progress it directly. Like they are fantastic at it. And like, I don't know if I've told you this, like their assistant manager, I used to have another Twitter account when I was in school, like a tactics one and stuff. And we used to follow each other on there. And like he was just like a blogger at the time, and obviously seeing his path, like he's gone to Dortmund, he was at Mönchengladbach, he's now the Leeds assistant manager. So like all of his principles that are kind of underpinning Leeds, I've seen in like blog form, and like that's why I knew quite well what to expect and stuff. And yeah, like against a team like that, like I said at the start, you just have to be so tactically and technically on it, and there is no margin for error. And unfortunately, we had an off day, but it was largely because of the amount of pressure we're under, right? So, yeah, fair. All I want to say, I feel like I've not actually said this yet. Fair play to Leeds, like incredible performance. Have you muted yourself?
Oh, okay, damn. Yeah. I was gonna say, I still don't feel like they deserve to lose.
No,
I don't think we deserve to lose. I
don't think we deserve to lose.
Result. Yeah, I think it was a fair, like a draw would have been fair, but we had the mental grit and resilience that we've just not shown for years. So fair play to the guys. So passing networks is another one we normally look at. You can see,
mate, look at Leeds how they
back. Yeah, Leeds look like a unit here.
So all I want to say on this is our structure was fine. Our structure
it's still the same structure we always have. It's just we're way further back.
Yeah. Structurally, we were fine. We were slightly further back, but look at Leeds. We have not seen a team pack out our pockets like that. And like there's another graphic coming up about like half spaces in certain zones on the pitch. Like the way Leeds they packed out the certain areas where we wanted to play. They reduced the amount of triangles we could do. And like our biggest strength is the way that structurally we move teams about. We couldn't do that. We didn't have the bloody time to do it. And like I feel like sometimes you can analyze until the cows come home, but sometimes you just have to say Leeds tactically were better than us yesterday. And there's not going to be many games where we say that over a league campaign. So I think it's okay to acknowledge that it was a combination of Leeds got it spot on, and we also didn't find it within ourselves to play the way we could yesterday. But I thought that was phenomenal by Leeds, looking at their structure there, the way they completely packed out the areas we wanted to play. And while our structure was exactly how we would like to, I think that is excellent coaching from them.
I think just for the podcast listeners who can't see the graphic, if you did want to check it, it's 48-minute timestamp. But the reason I say it is that the arrow brightness reflects how many passes were actually made between players, completed passes, and our most common passing pattern was pretty much Gabriel to Saliba, Gabriel to Tomiyasu, and Saliba to Partey. Yeah. That's like where we made the most passes. Like once we got further up the pitch, yes, our normal triangles were there, but we couldn't string passes together before they came in and took it. I think I saw they attempted some wild number of tackles. They attempted like 26, 30 tackles against us, and like 20, like 24 of them were successful.
I'll be able to find that. Give me 2
seconds.
Have
a quick look. Yeah, honestly, their tackling was wild.
Okay, so it wasn't quite 27, but they oh wait, attempted. Maybe I've not got attempted here, but
Oh yeah,
tackles won.
attempted. Yeah, successful was high though.
Yeah, like so they won 14 tackles, and it says 56%. So that kind of insinuates that yeah, around 27.
Yeah, they were
Would you
honestly
mind
on my
just before
case.
we go on to this one, just one
Yeah.
more thing I wanted to highlight. So obviously the lack of if you go back to the passing
Yeah, I'm
networks.
just gonna go to the
So
passing network.
what you said about obviously the lack of passing and stuff, and it was mainly between Gabriel and Saliba. I feel like the biggest evidence yesterday of us not feeling comfortable or being able to play our game was the amount of underhit passes. We rely so much on having a triangle and you'll ping it and fizz it in. And like, so if you're taking the triangle of like the two centre backs and Party, you knock it to one of the centre backs, they'll whack it into Party and then he'll move it out. The amount of underhit passes yesterday was ridiculous. Like I can't remember seeing us underhit, but we are such a technically crisp team. And yesterday, the amount of underhit passes I was noticing was mental, and it was because of Leeds' relentless pressing and just structurally they were very, very good.
Yeah, no, I
It's probably
honestly I
worth.
couldn't agree more.
Don't know if you've seen. Chris has just posted a comment in the chat, which I agree with. He said, don't know if you're able to do the thing where you flash it on screen, but he said, I don't like making excuses for poor performances, but how much do you guys think the long distance travelling to and from Norway in midweek factored into our lackluster showing yesterday? And Chris, I think you may have missed the start, but like that's what we basically said as well. We both agreed with that. Like I think that absolutely has an influence on things. And then taking it one step further, we said obviously we played a pressing monster team in Liverpool, right? Like and Bodo Glimt are a pressing team as well. So in a week, we've played Liverpool, Bodo Glimt, and Leeds, 3 pressing teams. And like, yeah, it doesn't really come much harder than that in terms of opposite styles of play in such a frequent period. And then Saints away, I know we should beat them, but they're a pressing team. It'll be interesting to see how we do on
I think that'll be another
Sunday.
tough away game, which is why I'm kind of happy we have the home fixture against PSV to have the fans and the support lift our energy a bit. So it's interesting you mentioned that. So obviously before the game, Jesse March had said Mikel Arteta is the most underrated manager in the league.
Saw that, yeah, fair play.
And since then, he has actually gone on in his post-match quotes to say that. Well, just carrying on with it, he said that they're seeing the fruits of their labor now. We are confident at Elland Road that we can play how we want to, but Arsenal are very good. We know we have to be our best against such an opponent. He did say he was disappointed and frustrated. He believed his side deserved more from the game against the Gunners. But in his quotes, he was basically saying that, that's the best team in the league right now. And today we were better. And he was looking at the positives of it. And he was saying, it's what we said about United where we lost. He was saying, if we play like this, we are going to win more games than Leeds.
100%.
But he tried to say the positives from it, which is true. Like I thought they were admirably good.
Yeah, same here.
So let's look at the territory control before we slowly get out of here. I know we also got the kind of the I always forget the name of it, zone 14 or whatever
zone
it is.
14 and half.
Yeah,
my wet dream.
So territory control out of possession. So I guess starting with Leeds. Out of possession, Rodrigo's very high up, so he's doing what Jesus was doing
also,
for us.
what an assist from him for our goal.
I couldn't believe that. He had no need to make such a rash cross-field pass like that.
Bonkers, wasn't it?
It was just like, why would he do that? Yeah, like I honestly don't know why he did that. Beyond that, though, he was pressing very good.
Yeah,
he did get sub for Bamford. I thought Bamford had good moments after he came on. It's obvious that he's not at his best with the injuries he's sustained over the last year or two, and I'm still confused why they let him take the penalty. I get he's a number 9. He wants to get goals. He wanted his 100th goal, but I don't know. Like, surely there was someone else there who's been playing regular football that could take it.
Like, where I thought the first half was fairly even, I think he was a big factor in the kind of flow of the game completely changing in the second half. But yeah.
I think this is why it shows 47 minutes, because it's before Bamford came on. Yeah, so you don't see the impact of him necessarily. In possession, they're very bunched up, by the way. So you can see like what you said, which is like they just overloaded us. There's like the entire team, apart from 3 players, is packed at the halfway.
They overwhelmed us, right? And that, like I've said this before, like going into the season, I was talking about like tight pitches and intimidating grounds, and how like we all know the way we want to play structurally, how we like maximize the pitch and stuff. Yeah, like I've done it to death, right? Leeds absolutely nailed it in terms of making sure that we couldn't.
So
No,
out of
fair play to them.
possession here, Odegaard's actually the highest up the pitch. Everyone else is pretty much behind our halfway line defending for their lives, it looks like. And this doesn't even include the final 15 minutes of defending for our lives.
Yeah, I know.
In possession, the structure looks very good. The territory control look as you would expect for us. White's a bit more reserved in some of the more recent games, less overlapping runs, I suppose. But the team structure looks fine. I think we were just very tired. The traveling, to go to the, as you say, like to play Liverpool and then to go to the Arctic Circle on Thursday night and then to come back and go to Leeds. Like
it's 3 pressing teams combined with lots of travel and a fucking awful pitch. Like you're not going to sustain the level of performance that we've been used to, and I think it went a lot worse than I thought it would. Like I thought it would be I think I predicted 3-1, but I thought it would be tough. Like I didn't quite expect it like that though, and that's a learning for me to take on board as well.
Yeah, I think, and I'm glad we managed to do this. Obviously, this month has like 9 fixtures in it, so we've managed to get through unscathed, relatively speaking, so far.
Touch wood.
Yes, so far. So let's see if we can carry on up until we play Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, which will be another very interesting game. Let's look at the turnovers and zones before we wrap up then. So, 11 high turnovers, 3 leading to shots for Leeds. We had 1 high turnover, 0 leading to shots.
I feel like this slide, we don't usually include this. I always look at it. So obviously we get our stats from Mark StatSpot, and I always look at this, but never really feel the need to include it. But why I wanted to include it this time was I feel like it just summarizes everything we've said in 2 graphics. Look at the amount of turnovers that they had. So for the podcast, they had 11 high turnovers. We had 1. And then zone 14 and half spaces. So this is going ridiculously tactically nerdy. And I know, all of you guys will know me. Like I love this shit. But zone 14 is basically the little zone just outside the penalty box. It's the central zone. And why I wanted to highlight this was, do you remember what you were saying about the matchups in the preview, right? And how I think from Marina's model, there was like a good central matchup. You could see, and then sorry, to illustrate the model, the graphic further, it's then got the half spaces either side of the central zone 14. From the matchups, we thought we'd get a lot of joy in the center, and being very simplistic about it, you can overanalyze everything. Leeds just did not make it possible. So Leeds had 18 chances come from, 18 passes from zone 14 and 32 from their half spaces, and it's because they were so fast and aggressive in regaining the ball, getting it up direct and getting into those right areas. Us on the other hand, where zone 14 in that central area where Odegaard, Xhaka, Partey, they bully teams there. They completely pass around them and they have a laugh. We were nullified to just 12. And it would be interesting to go back and compare to each game. That feels like a very low number for us. And then the half spaces where we are absolutely elite, where like Odegaard drifts in between zone 14 and to the right half space. Xhaka doing the same thing, and the interchanging with the fullbacks, and then the connection and relationships with the wingers, we were nullified to just 20. And obviously, just for context and comparison, Leeds had 32. And like I feel like this graphic I just wanted to include because for me it just summarizes everything about how we weren't able to tactically implement our blueprint. And
I think the other thing is they're very deep. So when you look at their half space chances, there's quite a few passes, especially in the right half space, where they do get into our box, not because the half space includes the final third all the way outside the box too. For us, on the left, we didn't have a single half space pass in the left. And on the right, there's 2 that go into the box. So it's like, even though we had these half space touches, like they were mainly like not in their box. Like we just couldn't get that far up the pitch.
Again, there's nothing like new to learn from this because we've kind of covered it all. I just, as a graphic, I thought it illustrated like what we had been saying really nicely.
Yeah, I think it's a nice way of visualizing like how the game unfolded. I'm sure it resonates with a lot of us who watched the match. Let us know in the chat what you think, if it matches what you think you saw on the day, especially the guys who were there watching it live. So quick shout out to the mini league. If you're new to the podcast, you're not in the FPL mini league, for podcast listeners, the code is AV2ZQR.
We
Come
should
and
probably
compete
stop
with us.
plugging this soon because, like, if
You want to
people are
close
winning,
entries?
yeah, just because like we're game week. What was it? 11 that's just gone, right?
Yeah, I'd
Yeah,
say
we've got
normally you should probably close it soon. Yeah, like close it for new
yeah, but
entries.
it's still the same top two. So it's Brian Christensen in the lead, and he's 4 points ahead of Kevin Scott, and then our boy William is joint third with D Chin. So yeah, and that Mike's dropped down to sixth, and then yeah, so Brian top of the league, Kevin second, William joint third with D Chin.
Quick shout out to D-Chin as well, who tuned in
Oh,
live
nice.
since we did the shout outs. He's tuned in and dropped in the background.
His ears were burning. He heard it.
He knew we were going to talk about him being in the top of the league. So I guess if there's any questions in the chat, I think we're gonna probably wrap up now anyway. But if there's any final questions, let us know. Worst case, we'll cover them in the preview on Friday before the Southampton away game, and we'll look at the PSV game for a few minutes, like we've done with the last two Bodo games.
Yep.
But if you told me at the start of the season that we'd be sitting in first in mid-October, 4 points ahead of Man City and 9 points in our Europa League group with one tie at home left that could seal the entry to the next round, I'd have been very happy. I'd have bitten your arm off for that.
Oh, same here. And the manner of the performances as well. Like, it is scary. And again, the thing we said in pre-season was the style of football we play. It was all about the consistency in terms of what came next. And we're showing that, right? Like, we will accumulate a lot of points over the course of the season playing this style of football. And sometimes games like yesterday, this will come back to bite me, but if our squad is fit, games like yesterday don't happen often. And not many teams will go to Elland Road and come away with 3 points. You said it yourself, right? I didn't realize they were unbeaten there.
It was the first time they lost. Yeah.
So like it is
first time they lost
fine.
this season in the league. So what's interesting? Am I back?
Yeah, you disconnected for a bit.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you're frozen.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, your connection's bad, so I reckon let's just wrap up. To be honest, I can hear you, but it's frozen. Yeah, for the listeners, by the way, sorry, I was just texting Nima. Sorry about this. I think Nima's internet is clearly gone, so I'm going to text him to close the episode. Yeah, and I've seen Chris Tellers has said, I see the technical difficulties of Elland Road have transferred to Nima. Yep, power cut. I don't know where Nima lives, but it's not Elland Road, but yeah, it seems to have transferred across. But yeah, when Nima gets back in, I'm going to ask him to wrap up. And
I think I'm back. There's actually two of me in the show. If you look, there's still the old one that got lagged out. But so before the internet crashes again, let me get us out of here while I am in here. I have a feeling that the end broadcast button isn't in your account, so we'll leave that. But I guess just all I was saying is you've talked about how like we're not near our ceiling and we're a young team, and other teams have been playing the way we've played all season and they've been called wise. So I saw an article, I just want to say this, and it said, so firstly, is Tottenham's best start to a league season since 1963, so 60 years. And the headline of the newspaper says, God help rivals if they hit top gear. And I just thought, that says it all. Is that a newspaper or is it a fanzine?
Yeah, trust me, man, it is ridiculous. Just before we do wrap up, if your internet allows it, can you just highlight William's comment? It's the second last on the chat, because I completely agree. William says, you guys, we don't really deep this absolutely mental start we've had. Almost feels like no other big six is in crisis, so we don't really understand how stupid 9 out of 10 wins is in the Prem. And I completely agree. Like 27 points from 30 is absolutely mental. Like
it's mental. It's our best start ever. So like it's also Spurs' best start in 60 years, but it just happens to coincide with it's our best start ever. So they're still in our shadow despite
No,
Great
like
stuff.
we are absolutely flying. We're smashing it, and we're doing it in such a commanding way. And like with how the United game went, like that was a 50-50 game. I don't care. Like we didn't deserve to lose that 3-1. So the thing I'm telling myself is yesterday kind of just balanced the season out. That's all.
I just put this last one up. I see the technical
Yeah,
difficulties of Elland Road.
that did make me laugh.
That's a really good one. But yeah, I'll get us out of here then. So it's great to see everyone. Thanks for tuning in live. We'll see you next time. Hopefully,
Nice one.
another
See you on
victory in the
Friday.
Europa. Yeah, see you on Friday. Up the
Cheers,
Gunners.
everyone.
Take care,
Up the
guys.
Arsenal.
I'm going to play this again.
Scousers get battered everywhere they go. Scousers get battered.